Hi, my name is Jeffro, and this is Digital Dominance, the podcast for service-based small business owners who are ready to seize the recognition and growth that their company deserves. You've worked hard to build a business you're proud of. Now it's time for Digital Domination. Welcome back to Digital Dominance. Today, we're diving into the future of personalized marketing and why static content will soon give way to hyper-personalized content. My guest today is Scott Cate, a longtime internet innovator with over 3 decades of experience. From the early days of floppy disks to cloud-based solutions at Microsoft and Amazon, Scott has always been ahead of the curve. And now he's helping businesses get smarter with their marketing through dynamic content, better analytics, and hyper-personalized engagement at scale with his company 301.pro. So we're going to break down why you should stop serving the same content to everyone, how to increase rates on text message marketing with things like time of day marketing, and why QR codes are more powerful than you might think when used the right way. So Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeffro. Thanks for having me. I heard you say 3 decades, and I'm like, man, that's a long time.
It's a compliment. That means you have so much experience and wisdom to share with our listeners today. So I'm excited.
Right. Yeah. I've been around the block. In fact, it's interesting. This 301 Pro project has sort of generated over those decades. I can't count the number of times that I've actually built this project, either for myself or for a customer or for someone enterprise like Microsoft. I mean, it's been around a long time, and we sort of had a moment about a year ago. Everybody wants this. We should just build a product for it. So that's where it began.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, static marketing is still the norm for a lot of businesses, though. Obviously, The fact that you've been doing this means you believe customized dynamic content, it's not just the future, like it's there for the bigger players, right? But now you're making it more accessible. Yeah. So can you walk us through what that even means? Why do businesses need to rethink this approach?
So you said the word static, which is a little nerdy. So let's go into that. Static versus dynamic. You know, if you write a blog post on your WordPress site and you post it, everything in there is static. The title doesn't change. The body doesn't change. If 1,000 people come read that, it's static. Like it doesn't change. It's the same for all 1,000 people. And I'm not so sure that you need to stop writing static content, but what I might suggest is you have more than one version of the same content. The thing that I want to mostly address is connecting with the customer in real time based on their current mindset. So here's a fun question to ask yourself and the audience as you're driving or listening to the show. Are you the same person at 8 a.m. or 3 p.m. or 11 p.m. or sometime overnight? Like you're on your phone or you're getting ready or you're ending your day. Like you can sort of mentally picture yourself in those states of mind, right? So are your customers. And so when we say static content, we're really talking about, are you talking to the same person all day, all night, all week, all month? Or can you get closer to the user's mindset based on things like time of day, geography? You can even do some more advanced things like weather. Obviously, that's different based on the customer. If you're a super small business, you may not care about weather in New York if you're in Minnesota or Sydney or wherever you may be listening from. But the whole point is, can we connect better with the mindset of the user right now, reactively, not proactively? Oh, I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Proactively, not reactively. Like if you look at your Google Analytics, you can see where people are on your website. You're like, hey, my storefront is in Wisconsin. What do I have all these people from Florida and Australia looking at my website? Like, could you connect with them better? Most people don't think about it. So that's what I call real-time marketing.
Let's settle on the time of day marketing a little bit longer here, because obviously that makes intuitive sense, right? And we've all heard about, when should I post on social media? The best time is Tuesday at 7:06 a.m., right? And so obviously I don't think that precision means you're going to trick the algorithm, but it's more about the psychology of the person on the other side, right? And that's kind of what you're talking about.
So what you're talking about is literally, it's the mindset that everybody goes to. And I call that reactive. Like you're still trying to guess where your audience is. But let's say you post something on Instagram. Like, it's not going to only be in Pacific or European standard. Like your audience is worldwide now. So here's another thought experiment. So you have your server open, and my server is open 24/7. Anybody can look at it. But let's just say your server is only online for 5 minutes. And during that 5 minutes, 100 people from around the world come to your website. When I say time of day, most people think that it's the same time for all 100 people on the website. Like if you look at the server logs, it's like 101 to 106 or whatever your 5-minute range is. But the truth is time of day is different for each one of those 100 people, right? It's 8 a.m. here. I wrote a blog post. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Like, it's sort of
Nice.
true, right? If you have a worldwide website, then it is different. Now, if you're a service-based business that is only operating in a single location, you might be quick to jump to say, well, I don't care what time it is. But you could go all the way to something simple like, if I'm open, do this. If I'm closed, do that. If it's the weekend, go here. If it's happy hour, show the happy hour menu. If it's not, then, show the Tuesday special, the Wednesday special. Like, you can really get dynamic based on time of day. It doesn't have to be big and extravagant, but it can be something that is not static, like not the same homepage for everyone.
Well, that makes for just a better experience, right? As an individual coming to the site, it's just nice to be like, oh yeah, hey, it's got the little moon over here because it's nighttime. Last time it was morning and it had a sign. Like, okay, little things like
light mode, dark mode.
Yeah. It's one of those things like you might not be able to put a price on like the ROI of that particular interaction, but overall it kind of increases the level of enjoyment and engagement with your customer, lets them know you're understanding where they are and what's going on, and just kind of, you can brighten their day, and that can go a long way when someone had something terrible happen and now you've recognized them, or you've changed the email to them specifically just enough to where they feel seen or heard or something.
So what about ROI? Let's talk about that. That's a great term. If you're spending money on ads, or if you're spending money on outbound text messaging, no matter who your provider is, you typically are looking for a return on that investment. So let's pause on ROI for just a second, and let's just go into like a little bit of the nerdy, how this works. And it'll take like 30 seconds, and then you have a good mental model of what's happening, and then we'll go back to ROI. So as an internet marketer, you're familiar with some terms like a 404. If I say that, you're like, oh, that's a broken link. And most people know that. 500 is server error. 200 is an okay message. Do you know what 301 is?
Redirect.
Yeah. For your audience, if you don't know, 301 is like the nerdy HTTP status code for redirect, which ultimately is what we're doing. Now, a lot of people use redirection already with something like Bitly. We love Bitly. Like, we literally have been using Bitly our whole life. That 3 decades I talked about, I don't know how old they are, but we all have countless Bitly accounts. And Bitly's amazing, but it's hard coded. You have a link and then you have a destination. So what 301 Pro does is exactly that. We're essentially a Bitly competitor, but we have a rules engine. So when you click the Pro link, instead of just going to a destination, we say, if it's this time, go here. If you're in New York, go there. Like, whatever your rules are. If it's Tuesday or Wednesday, because that's our special, then do this. If it's nighttime or daytime. So that's the rules engine. That's how it all works. So now back to your return on investment. The rules engine works no matter what link is being processed, including images. So what's interesting here is you can get a little more advanced. And now, instead of hard coding an image on your website, you could hard code what we call a pro link. 301 Pro is sort of a play on the words. A pro link says, use the rules engine to figure out what to display. So now imagine you have an image tag that's loaded from a pro link. And now if we go one step further, I hope your audience is following this, but if you go one step further into the more advanced section of Open Graph is what drives the preview on text messages. So if you send 1,000 text messages to your audience, you can actually send them 1,000 unique preview links, which gives you, in our example, up to an 80% higher open rate, because the preview image is now specific to me, my time, my location, or whatever the rules engine shows you. So like the famous example, or one of our customers is a makeup company. And they're like, they only sell the makeup. It's the same makeup all day long. But in the morning, they talk about putting the makeup on. And in the afternoon, they talk about how easy it is to stay on all day or reapply. And at night, like how easy it is to take off. And then overnight, there's a coupon code that says, buy one, get one free, or whatever their flash sale is. Same product all day long. It just matters on my local time, what I actually see. So I think there's a lot of ways to connect with the audience based on time of day, geography, or more advanced weather patterns. Like, are you the same person when it's snowing out versus raining versus, sunny? Like, am I going to show you flip-flops or a raincoat? Like, there's a lot of cool things you could do all real time based on, the click data. If you wanted to do this on your own and you have a web developer, or maybe you are a web developer or you're working with an agency, it's actually not that hard. So when the click comes in, you're basically going to look up the destination of where that click is, and you can do reverse IP detection, which is not foolproof, but it gives us about 90% accuracy of where the user is coming from. The IP is basically how the internet works, and it tells you if the call is coming from, or the user is coming from a cell tower or a data center. And so it's called reverse IP detection. Effectively, that's what we're doing. But our magic is we do it very fast in 150, 175 milliseconds. And then we have the rules engine that makes it easy for a marketer without a developer to actually make decisions based on that. But, if you are a developer or you're working with an agency, you could sort of build a link shortener with some of these brains in it that just says, where's the user located? What's the time zone? And then based on the time, make those decisions. You could probably do that in a day or two. And it's easy to do if it's just for yourself, because it's just a small project and it fits to your needs exactly. Or you could use a tool like what we have at 301.pro as a marketer without a developer, and it just sort of, works. Like you could do it in 5 minutes.
Right. Well, you guys have already done the hard work. So I think most owners would probably just take the thing that's already built, unless they needed something that's hyper specific for some reason. But the other thing to keep in mind is, you touched on the speed of that rules engine. That's a huge factor, because if it takes too long, you're going to have all this loading symbols on your images or the page. That's going to hurt your SEO. It's going to hurt your bounce rate. So those decisions need to be made very, very quickly. And you need to have the infrastructure set up so that the images are served quickly from wherever you are. And it's not like going across the country to make the decision over here and coming back. So obviously you guys have built that up in order to be scalable.
Yeah.
But conceptually, yes, it's simple, right?
Right. So 301 Pro runs in over 800 data centers. We actually deploy to something called the edge node. Typically, an application runs from a single server, or even serverless, where it might run from a farm of 3 or 4 or 10 or 100 servers. We actually deploy out to what's called the edge. So that's how we can get that speed. But, not everybody needs that. If you're a local restaurant and you're just like serving up a menu, the difference between like 150 milliseconds and 1500 milliseconds, it's not the end of the day. But if you're doing something where you have a lot of traffic, then that speed ultimately matters.
Yeah.
We talked about time of day, but time can be used in another way. Simple before, during, and after. So let's imagine you're promoting a webinar and you put this link out into the wild and you're like, hey, come register for the webinar. Well, what happens when you're in the webinar? Or if you're doing like a virtual day event, or even it's tomorrow and now the event is done and you want people to go to YouTube. Imagine using that date time to say, before this date, go to registration. During this date span, go to the live stream. And then after this date span, go to the YouTube page. And the beauty of the rules engine is you don't have to know all that in advance. You just start with the registration page. And then when the event is on, you're like, okay, here's my live stream. Now, after this date, add a rule that says, go to the live stream. And then when you upload it to YouTube, you're like, okay, now go to YouTube. The magic, though, is you don't have to change the link that's already in the wild.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where the magic of QR codes come in.
I love that, because, you could send someone an email and it might sit in their inbox for a day, and then they click it later and, okay, now they still get accurate, up-to-date information because you've changed the link. Or, you didn't change the link, you changed where the link goes. Right.
The destination. That's right. So here, let's talk about QR codes for a second, because the QR code has this magical problem that it's burned in. That's like an industry term. Imagine you print a QR code and you put it in a television ad or billboard or magazine or something. Like, you only get one shot. And that the QR code is like, now it's in the wild. You can't just go reprint 1,000 magazines. And if your QR code is hard coded, like if your QR code is a bit.ly link and it just goes to a destination, then you could have a developer like update that destination, but you're just hugely missing out on the opportunity to find the location, do something unique with the rules engine. And when that QR code is scanned, literally go to a destination that better serves the user who's scanning the link. Great for television ads if you're doing something like an infomercial or even a billboard. People put this on their business card. Like if I met you in an airport and you scan my business card, you might be a different person or go to a different lead engine than if, you're a month later on vacation in another country and scan the business card. So once you start thinking about these levers of location and time of day, you can really start to deliver better content that targets your audience.
Yeah, and another use case came to mind was like a trade show, right? You got your QR code at your booth.
100%.
You can show them different stuff during the window of time that you're actually at the booth versus when you're giving your presentation for a giveaway and then after for follow-up. Like, yeah, so many cool things you can do with this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we have a blog post that basically says QR codes should be free. And that's actually true. Different business models have different meanings to different people. Just because we don't agree with it doesn't make it right or wrong. But Bitly has decided that their gate for paying to bigger accounts is the number of QR codes you have. Like, I don't know this exactly, but when you look at the pricing, you'll see, I think the free account gives you 2 QR codes. And then like the basic account gives you more QR codes, but not all of them. So with 301 Pro, QR codes are just part of the basic package. Anytime you create any link, there's a QR code on it, which gives you the ability to, use a QR code if you need it or not. Like there's not a limit on the QR codes, although we do differentiate in our analytics if the link was scanned or clicked. So like if you use the same URL, but in a QR code versus a paid ad, you can tell the traffic location. So there's some differentiation, but yeah, QR codes should be free. Like it literally takes you 5 minutes to create a QR code as a software company. We disagree with charging for QR codes.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of websites out there that help you generate them for free just for yourself. So yeah, that's interesting. I was going to ask another question. So let's say for the clicked links, not the QR code, just a regular link. Can your rules engine handle different query parameters, the URL parameters that are passed in?
Oh yeah, 100%. In fact, we can do both. You can analyze the query parameters that are coming in, and the rules engine not only will change when I say change the destination, the easiest thing you think about is like go to a different URL, complete URL. But you don't have to do that. With the rules engine, you can actually substitute every part of the URL. And I'll just go through them real quick. You have the subdomain, the main domain. So the subdomain is like the W part. The main domain is like the Amazon.com. And then you have the path. And then you have what's called a fragment, which is where the hash code is. And then you have the query string. And with 301 Pro, you have minute details to inject or change or overwrite all of them, which we have something called click data enrichment. You know what a UTM tag is? I'm sure most of your audience is familiar with that. Remember, it's urgent tracking mechanism. I think that's what UTM stands for.
It's mechanism, I think.
It's actually from Urchin because Google bought Urchin as the original ads company. Anyway, folklore. I could be wrong on that. I don't want to pretend to be factual, but I think it's UTM. And there's sort of this UTM lie. And you've probably experienced this. It's called UTM source, which basically is you saying, here's the source of this link. But what's the problem with the hard-coded UTM source?
Someone else could have changed it or along the way.
This happens all the time. Like you create a short link and you put it into any social media ad, but then they use the same link in your email.
Right.
And now UTM source is a lie.
Yeah.
Right. So when you talk about manipulating the query string, we have something called click data enrichment. We fill in the UTM source for you based on the referring link. So let's say you write a blog post and you send people to our website. I'll give you a link that's just a short link. Let's just say 301.pro/Jeffro. And I'll actually make that. It doesn't exist in the second, but it will by the time it airs. And when people click that link, it'll get enriched, and the UTM source, without any work on your part, will say your domain, whatever the blog post is or wherever you host it from. So yeah, long answer to your question. You have 100% control over every nook and cranny of that entire URL.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm kind of nerding out over this. This is very cool, the solution that they built. And if you're not so technical, hopefully just focus on the fact that this is all happening for you, and it's easy to just create rules to make cool things happen. And if you have a developer on your team or your webmaster, you can tell them, I want this to happen. Can we put the person's name on the page when they click the link? And the developer will be like, oh yeah, no problem. And then they'll know how to do it. So this is very cool. So there's so many ways you can manipulate this. So I like that a lot. Let's talk for a second, since we're talking about getting people on the page of your site, and you're talking about updating these UTM codes, and so you're tracking your campaigns and everything. First party pixel tracking, right? We're kind of moving in that direction. People have used Google Analytics for a long time, which traditionally has been third party because you're loading the script from Google. So now first party pixel just means you're loading it from your own domain. but that now gives you the opportunity to do additional things with that data, right? So can you talk a little bit about maybe what's the advantage of doing first party over third party?
So most of your audience has installed either Google Tag Manager or Google Pixel or Facebook Pixel. And if you just remember doing that, when you signed up for Google Analytics, they're like, hey, in order for this to work, here's a piece of JavaScript. Go to your WordPress site or go to your marketing page or go to your blog or however you do it. But this script has to render on the page. And if you just remember what that is, it's something like tagmanager.google.com/jtag.js. And then there's like some things above it and below it. And below it is like page, view, track, like it calls into the JavaScript. And I mean, it's pretty easy the way that it works. It's beautiful because it's so simple, but first party is the domain I'm on. So let's say the domain is 301.pro. If I load a script from google.com, that's considered third party. And a lot of the ad blockers will not even load the script, which means you don't get any analytics. So Google has a new feature actually called First Party Pixel. And they will let you install a new server inside Google Cloud and route your DNS through Google Cloud. It's the technical term for this is called a reverse proxy, which is so nerdy. Nobody really needs to know that. But Google will set this up for you. You just have to pay for the server to run. And when they set up that server, they bind it to your first party domain, like analytics.301.pro. And then you have to go change the script so that it loads from analytics.301.pro instead of Google Tag Manager. So that's third party versus first party pixel. Remember how all of this works. If we go all the way back to the beginning, even if you're using Bitly under custom domain, you are basically setting up a portion of your domain that routes to our rules engine. So like if you had Jeffro.com, you might set up go.jeffro.com, and that would be your rules engine that processes all of the 301 links. Well, we have a feature that you can add on that is first party pixel. So now because we already have the DNS, like you've already done the hard part for us, there's an analytics section of that called data CGI. And now if you load go.jeffro.com/data CGI/Google, then it's first party pixel. Again, you can do this on your own, but like you just have to be a developer and actually go do it, or we can sort of turn it on for you almost instantly.
Yeah. And so the long and short of it is now you'll get more tracking data because it won't be blocked by the ad blockers and some of the updates to the latest browsers and things who are trying to protect your privacy. So it's basically like, well, if you trust this script through because it's coming from you.
Yeah, right. And we have that for Google and Facebook. And I know we're working on adding more, but right now, those are the two big ones, but more are coming in the future.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, this has been fun kind of nerding out on some of this stuff. And guys, this is really impactful.
Is it too nerdy, or you think the audience will get what we talked about?
Well, I think we've done a good job of covering both because we talked about the use case for it, but we also talked about how it works. And so I think from a marketing perspective, the takeaway is this allows you to connect better with your customers, to have more and better touch points along the customer journey with the people who are your prospects, whether you're nurturing them, whether they're already clients, and you're just giving them a better experience and more reasons to stay with you over the competition. So this is a really cool setup, and I'm going to be signing up for this afterwards too, because I didn't even realize how many things you could do with it. And so I'm going to have fun with that as well. But before we wrap up, do you have like a quick real world story of, a business who switched to dynamic content using 301 Pro and kind of saw, a big difference? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have so many of them. In fact, last week, this actually ties into the domain name. Remember you said 301 is the redirect code? Uh-huh. So I often will follow user journeys through a screen share, and like I would screen a Zoom call with you to say, okay, do this. And I can sort of observe you finding things that are difficult or not obvious. And I failed instantly with the customer last week because they literally could not load our website. And the reason is they were typing, and the vernacular that I say 301, it's actually wrong. I should say 301.pro, but they actually tried to load the website 3 and the letter O and the number 1. So you know what I did right after that?
You set up the redirect. Yeah.
I have to buy another domain.
Yes.
Right. So now 301 or 301.pro works. But yeah, we have a lot of use cases. One of them is very, very heavy, like in the millions of text messages in the financial world. And they're doing some things to increase their open rates. Very simple logic. And they get a little more advanced, but the logic is still simple. Is the stock market open? Do this. If the stock market is closed, do that. Because you have a different mindset if you're actually looking at the stock market. And then it goes one step further. Stock market open? Is the stock market up? Then do this. If stock market's down, then do this. Like, there's a lot of things you can do if you're in that real-time space of trying to figure out, like, what's the mindset of my customer as they come through. And of course, that's a great example if you're in the financial industry, but hopefully there are other examples like that your audience can think of. Just ask yourself the question, how would I talk to my customer on Monday morning at 8 a.m. or Friday night at 11 p.m.? And whatever that internal voice is for you, that's what you can also do on your website.
Yeah, no, this has been a great conversation, Scott, and thanks for that example. It's definitely clear that businesses need to evolve past the one-size-fits-all marketing, and you built a tool that allows them to do that. And I think this is one of those things that once you try it, you'll start thinking of all the other ways you can use it, because you're like, oh, that light bulb's going to go off after that first thing that you set up, and you're going to get more sophisticated.
Or something simple like a webinar. Before, during, and after, it's easy to understand. It's low stress. You don't even have to manipulate or create additional content. But that's like the opener. Like once you get that, then everything else sort of falls in line.
Yeah. And guys, for those of you listening, Scott has offered a discount code. So if you try out his service at 301.pro, make sure to use the code Jeffro to make it free. So Scott's giving you a free tier here that you can use just to try it out and see how it is, because this is a great tool. So Scott, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
No, that's great. We don't have a free version of our software. We have a demo version that only gives you 5 sort of smaller links. We have a beginner version that's $9 a month. But everything that I talked about on this call is $49 a month. And the Jeffro code is a $49 monthly discount. So it effectively gives you our middle plan. There's some more advanced stuff that's above that, but I think the majority of your audience can be successful with everything we talked about on the call with a $49 discount. And it basically gives you a lifetime free account. It doesn't expire. Although I'll only leave the code active for a month after your show publishes. So the Jeffro code won't work forever, but those that sign up within the next couple of weeks will have effectively a $49 discount. So as long as your plan is $49 or less, it will be free for you.
Yeah, so don't sleep on that, guys. This is a very generous offer. So thanks again, Scott, for being here. Thanks to all you guys for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a review on iTunes or Spotify. Go sign up for 301.pro, start personalizing your marketing, and we'll see you back here next time. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to the Digital Dominance Podcast. This show is brought to you by FroBro.com. If you are a B2B service provider and you're ready to transform your website into a high-converting, lead-generating sales tool, go to FroBro.com/revive to learn more.